Hello and welcome to this latest edition of HFS Hot Vendors Firesides. I'm with Yogesh Sharma, who's president of Decimal. Decimal were named Hot Vendor in Q4 2021. We said Decimal Technologies offers solutions for faster and scalable digital transformation through a low-code application platform, Vahana. The objective with Vahana is to provide a platform for enterprises to build and configure the applications they need. Vahana helps define the front-end journeys by customizing workflows, configuring intelligent decisioning, and integrating with core systems and external ecosystems. Founded in 2009 with headquarters in Gurgaon, India, it started life as an enterprise mobile application development firm. Now the company offers an industry-agnostic low-code app platform and a lending marketplace in Sarati. Clients include financial institutions such as Kotak Mahindra Bank, Yes Bank, TransUnion, and AU Small Finance Bank. We recognise Decimal Technologies as an HFS OneOffice Hot Vendor because its low-code platform supports the enterprise in responding to rapid change by delivering end-to-end processes in which IT and business can come together, low-code being a way in which it's much easier for the business to understand applications rather than looking at lines and lines of code. So with all that in mind, I wonder, Yogesh, if you'll tell me more in your own words, your own story of what it is that Decimal is bringing to the market.
So thank you, David, for the warm welcome. Decimal brings expertise in financial solutions, that's one, but it does it on back of a low-code platform called Vahana. Vahana is a Sanskrit word which means vehicle, and it's like the name suggests. Vahana is a vehicle for digital acceleration. Vahana is a mobile-first low-code cloud platform built on the latest tech that fast-tracks the entire length of the software development cycle. This has been used extensively by large enterprises in banking, financial institutions, insurance, and this has been used to develop complex applications in areas of front-end applications, then the credit rule decisioning, complex workflows, process automation, and while the Vahana is a completely tech agnostic platform. It's a domain agnostic platform. It's a tech platform in true sense. Vahana has enablers with it that help in digital adoption in banking and insurance at an even faster pace.
Okay, so that's quite a wide-ranging and impactful, I guess, range of solutions there. You started out mobile applications.
Yes.
So what was it that made you take the shift, the pivot into the whole low-code space, the application development? And what was it that you saw in the market that would, or where did you see that demand coming from that meant you started putting all your eggs in that basket?
So the whole process started with our own need to be faster, more agile. When we were developing mobile applications, and India is a mobile first market, it's vast. It's not web first, unlike the US or the Europe. A lot of Salesforce applications or the B2B applications that sales teams of various banks and insurance use are mobile first. When that happens, and these go a change fairly rapidly in terms of the needs, to be able to digitize banking in India at a fairly fast pace, we realize that we need the solutions to be built on top of a platform. Each solution cannot be done independently. That's where we started building components of which can be reused, and that laid the foundation of Vahana around 8 to 9 years back. Gradually, we started building components in the whole SDLC cycle, which combined together form the base of our low-code platform. Today, our low-code platform covers all the three areas, which is the front end. We can do the web applications, we can do the mobile applications. Mobile is our main strength between web and mobile. Then we can integrate, and when I spoke of front-end applications, we can do customer-facing applications, we can do applications which are used in a B2B scenario. Then there is a middleware part which can integrate with various other systems. This allows for integrating with core systems, any API ecosystems that are available, and then we also support, once the application goes live, even IT operations in terms of managing the post-go live scenarios like user analytics, logs, auditing, monitoring. So this is the journey that we took, but the primary reasons why we ended up with our devised a low-code platform is we had a need for speed. We had a skill set need in terms of the moment we talk about front-end, back-end monitoring, we are talking about multiple tech stacks. Vahana allows to consolidate all these tech stacks into a knowledge of Vahana and not necessarily knowing Angular, Flutter, or let's say Kafka, EKS, etc. together. Therefore, the whole speed, the need for skill sets across multiple scenarios is cuts down, and obviously this also brings down the TCO for us and the clients as well.
And in terms of the low-code offering, what have clients said to you about the way it opens things up, not just in terms of how fast a skilled coder might be able to come up with a solution, but the engagement with the business side? Traditionally, coding has been this kind of weird secret world where the business looks over the shoulder every now and again and tells them what they'd like, and then a product turns up. In low code, it's a much more iterative process, engaging the business at every step, and business understanding therefore being more effectively built into the products. And was there a moment at which you had customers saying that's what we want, or is it simply that they've benefited from the speed aspect of low code to engage the business as well? Which way around do you think it came?
The buyers have been more around the business side, although the benefit, but they're looking at it still in more in terms of the benefit that comes out of speed and the go-to-market that they can achieve with this. So if let's say a bank needs to take a credit card application live in 4 months, or a home mortgage, completely custom built home mortgage scenario live in 6 months, that's where they have chosen Vahana. So you have typical implementation, even on a product on a home mortgage loan origination scenario, is anything between 1 year to 1.5 months. Sorry, 1 year to 18 months, while if you do it completely custom, it's can take up to 2 years. On Vahana, we have delivered such complex scenarios end to end in 6 months. So the customers have typically been business. It's they are the ones asking for Vahana. They are asking it for primarily 2 reasons. Their IT is choked, and especially with the scenarios of COVID and the need of digital acceleration. And the second is their go-to-market speeds can be cut down dramatically. The need or the need has spiked during the whole process after COVID, because there were 2 types of institutions. There were the ones which had already invested heavily into creating digital, and there was the other scenario where banks have actually not invested at all. If I cover the first scenario, even when they had done digital, they implemented on multiple tech stacks. So there were governance issues, there were issues around meeting them, especially with this whole scenario where people are moving from one organization to another. That's where Vahana came in and solved the problems of skill set and maintainability both. Now coming to the second scenario, where suddenly banks or insurance companies needed to dramatically change the speed of digital adoption. That's where for them, Vahana came up with 3 conditions where it helped. One is it gave them the speed, because anything that was taking 2 years is now taking 6 months for them, or anything which was taking a year is now taking 3 to 4 months. Second is reliability. You don't need to be stuck with the lowest common denominator or the skills of the lowest developer. It cuts down, it brings security because security is inbuilt in the platform. So the mistakes of developers are dramatically cut down. It's secure, it's scalable also. Vana is extremely tested for scalability. We open around, let's say, 25,000 accounts per day in bank. India is for scale, and Vana is tested for scale in terms of lakhs of 100,000 leads a day, or let's say 25,000 saving accounts being opened in a day on Vana. This is what it is provided in terms of insurance agencies and banks.
It's interesting to me. I'll come back to the kind of great resignation question and the skills gaps in a little while, if I may. But there's a question also around, there are other low-code application platforms, right? So how would you distinguish yourselves? I know you've been very successful in India to date. What are your plans to extend that beyond India and maybe tackle some of those other markets that some of the other low-code players are playing in?
So there are four ways in which we are slightly different from others. So one thing is, there are a lot of players in the low-code space. However, they can be again classified, in my opinion, in 3 or 4 different ways. Some are very use case specific. Some, let's say, do only CRM based use cases, and they have a capability in that area. There are some which are fairly generic in nature, but let's say only handle workflows, but not the complete gamut of operations in SDLC cycle. There are few which cover the whole cycle, right from, let's say, front end or development, then the integrations, the middleware and the ESB or the API gateway components, and then the whole IT operations. So Vana operates in a space where, and there I would say there are very few players which are end-to-end in nature and can operate on the scale that Vana can operate on. Now, coming to the differentiation with them also, most of them, like I said, are developed with a web-first approach. Their technologies are different. We are always on the latest tech stack. That's something which we regularly invest in. But we are mobile first, and that's the way even the Western world is shifting towards more mobile than web. That shift is, I think, still not completely there, but that's the movement that's happening. That gives us an advantage of having 6 to 7 years of experience of building scalable mobile applications. The second one is Vana is architecturally, Vana is different. It supports composable architecture for data, for APIs, and for applications as well. So you can actually build various applications, combine them together to build and reuse them to build a new use case. We also have we are architecturally different, than we are extremely database. So context-based applications development on Vana can happen easily. So if I take an example, my mobile banking application can be totally different than yours, and this can look different at a runtime, on a runtime basis. So that's the data architecture that Vana supports. The third is we have a heavy investment into banking and insurance as a sector. That's what we focus on, which means in India we have enablers which are in terms of ready integrations with APIs for taxation, for balance sheet, P&Ls, etc., or many other ecosystem in terms of APIs, and this is what we are extending to other geographies also. The fourth one is Vana is a completely open platform. It can integrate, so it's not limited to any sort of integrations. We can integrate with legacy systems. We can integrate with new age systems using REST, SOAP, etc. So these are the 4 factors which we feel gives us an edge. Among them, the first 2, which is the composable architecture of APIs, data, and applications that you can build on top of Vana is one, and the second is mobile first. And the strength in that. These are 2 very different ones. And what we are doing now is we are extending into US as a geography. So that's our next step. And the focus will continue to remain on banking and insurance. We are investing again in creating that ecosystem that we have in India for integrating with all the available APIs so that they come handy and further fast tracks beyond the low-code scenario. Then we are also, while we are doing this, we are also enhancing the partner network, which is the partners who can develop on Vana. These are, again, we are looking for partners, and we already have partners which are working both in India or serving US from India, working from US in US and working from India in India. So we have all the three scenarios that we are working with. This is the second. And the third is we are investing heavily into creating a developer community and the developer ecosystem, which is training, certifications, as well as the community for Vahana. These are the three primary things we are doing for a wider outreach and ecosystem play where people can help each other beyond us as well.
I guess brings us back to the Great Resignation question in one way, in that if your developer community, how much is that focused on people who are already developers? How much is focused on developing people to become people who can use the platform? Because what we see, of course, is this gap in skills. Companies like Salesforce are running out of people who are qualified to deliver what they've sold. And so there's now this kind of scampering to train people or cross-train people so that they can use the technologies. And it does seem one of the big questions facing the industry today is, where do I find all of the people that I need with all of the skills? So is that where that investment in community has come from, or is that a long-running commitment that you've had for some time?
So I will answer it in two different ways. One is we are not going with a completely, when we are creating communities and we are creating even partners, we are going with enterprises. So we are not going completely citizen developer way. So that's another distinction I want to clearly make. We are working with enterprises which are serving other enterprises as service firms, and enterprises who can act as clients. So we are developing people, and that's where we are training them, and that's how we are reaching them through enterprises to create a community within these. Now, these can all access Vahana community and speak to each other. However, it's not completely open that we are creating community out of citizen developers.
Okay, and the other part of my thought there was about the mobile first piece. I guess in many ways, smartphones and access to technology in India for many people was first through the mobile phone rather than through the desktop. So do you think that what you've been able to learn simply from developing in India has given you that advantage to take to the rest of the world now of a mobile first mindset, that maybe those that have been built in countries where it was all desktop first and the mobile had to battle for space, maybe are at a disadvantage?
So I consider it an advantage, especially in terms of the shifts that's happening. While the majority of applications till yesterday were happening on web, if we take the stats in terms of the movement is gradually happening. The mobile is increasing in Western world also, and the number of things that we can do on mobile is increasing. And it doesn't, while mobile is increasing, the journeys doesn't need to be on one platform only. What typically happens is, and what we are enabling is, the journeys are seamless. So part of the journey, let's say, backend operations can be done on web, while the same journey is stitched together for mobile for the customer, where let's say they are uploading their data or taking pictures, and that same data is flowing to the backend decisioning team in terms of documents, etc. So more and more use cases are traveling to mobile, especially wherever there is a customer engagement, and we are not working in a way that they need to download apps. We work with, while we give completely native apps in one single go for both Android, for all three actually, PWA Web, iOS and Android. PWA Web is being extensively used to stitch these journeys and take parts of journeys to the customer, and that's where I believe the adoption is going more. And our experience in creating those journeys seamlessly on Vahana and its ability will give us an edge.
Okay, so what do you think are the market challenges that will face you as you try to grow? What are you seeing in the market? What's changing? And what actually would you recommend would change to cope with the kind of demand that you're seeing both from customers for speed and access to market? It seems we're in this strange place where we have increasing inflation and at the same time a shortage of people, and their pay in relative terms is not keeping up with the inflation that's going on, which is a very strange scenario, and probably a first for most of us alive today. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like that. So that's just one kind of big macro factor that's at play here. You've got war in Europe, which is not a normal scenario either, which I understand is actually disrupting some quite significant supplies in terms of the elements for mobile batteries. So we may see a little bit of a shortage on them. We've seen silicon chip shortages throughout the world. So what are you seeing as the problems as you try to grow your business, particularly as you now look to expand in North America? What do you see are the problems, and how do you plan to overcome them?
One is I think there are too many platforms that call low code, no code. So that's the clear, and I don't think any of us, including the biggies in this space, make it extremely, or we help our customers in any way to make choices correctly. So I believe the presence of so many vendors and not clear cut education to the customers in terms of how they make choices is one of the bigger problems for us, and I believe for many others as well. So while there are tailwinds in terms of everybody needing to do things fast and everybody considering low code as one of the options in their set, but then the problem comes which low code, no code platform. And then while there are, again, I know of scenarios where people work with 3 or 4 low code platforms. So that's another challenge, because the moment we start working with multiple low code platforms, again, it's very much like a multiple tech stack scenario. So our ability to educate customers in terms of making the right choices, that's one challenge that I see. The second challenge is sometimes the resistance from pro developers that continues to remain a challenge, and their apathy towards low code, no code platforms. And the third is in a moving scenario with legacy applications and multiple low code platforms and other tech stack as well, and giving the low code platforms to business. How do we set up guidelines and governance that this doesn't create further chaos in the ID space? Is the third. These are 3 problems that we need to tackle. And in terms of big organizations, one is how do you enter as well, because most of these are through innovation centers or architecture councils. The speed of eval. So while business needs something to get done today, the architecture councils will take their own time in terms of bringing any new tech insight. So these are the 3 or 4 primary challenges that we see in terms of any new tech getting into a enterprise, and or we also getting into enterprise.
So for you, what are you going to focus on solving that? I mean, there's the big question, I guess, really for you is how do you sell the difference of your low code solution versus rivals? So I guess I'm thinking there's a number of challenges you've identified there. I think it would be great to hear how I'm going to pick out one, and the one it seems to me that you need to win on is how do you convince potentially the banking and finance sector in North America that yours is the right low-code application solution? What's your plan to do that?
So we bring, there again, we are focusing on getting all the speed. So we need to address the speed aspect first, which is bringing all the integrations in place with all the major core systems, with all the APIs in the ecosystem. So that's one part. The second part we are focusing on, like I said, our platform is composable in nature. So we are also creating templates which are fairly ready to use that further enhances and these are extremely small pieces. I can have let's say SSN validation as one of the pieces, a driver license validation as the second piece. Now my driving license validation can be used in an insurance journey or it can be used in a savings accounts journey. So having these pieces ready on the platform for reuse instantaneously is what we are bringing to the table. So we are going one step beyond the standard low-code offerings, which is only the tech and you can integrate any API. We are pre-integrating all the relevant data pieces. We are pre-thinking the scenarios. And this again comes with complete personalization. So this is the manner in which, and what we are not losing while doing this, while we are bringing the use cases upfront to enter North America market, what we are not losing is the complexity that the platform can handle and the areas that it can address, which is the front-end applications, the middleware API with anything, and the whole IT ops piece. All this also comes with personalization. So you can still do all the branding that you need to do, even after using the templates that or the nuggets that we are bringing to the table. So we are taking a use case first approach to selling is how I will summarize it.
Okay. So you told us a bit about your plans for the future, but where do you think the business is going to be in, let's say, 18 months' time? What would be a good scenario for you at that point? Tell us what the wins would have been.
So we are focusing on regional banks, and so we are not going completely on extremely large banks. So that's the sweet spot we feel we have, where they can extremely benefit from the tech and the domain experience that we bring. So at least in 18 months time, having a fairly deep penetration. So in India, we work with 7 out of top 10 banks. We work with all these small finance banks. So I would like to believe that we are the largest adopted low-code platform in India in banking. So in US scenario, let's say strength that's an area or strength will aspire for in terms of enterprise adoption in banking let's say community banks or small banks in 1 or 2 regions. That's the target we'll go with for the initial 12 to 18 months, but penetrate those at a fairly fast pace.
And in terms of maybe looking a little bit further down the road, maybe 2 or 3 years out further if you want, do you have any plans for perhaps delivery centers in the US, or would that make sense to you, or is it always going to be something that is primarily focused at home in India with delivery on site?
So we are moving. We definitely intend to plan our headquarters to US. We shift the organization there, and all the major design, product design, and sales happen out of there. While the offshore teams are majorly used for the product development and let's say content marketing, etc. So anything which can be done not by being fairly close to customer stays back in India, but all the customer facing design, product, engagement, service all moves to US.
What kind of timescale were you looking at for that?
So we are starting the process immediately. When I say immediately, in July, and we should be completing the process in again 12 to 18 months time.
Okay, can you share the location?
Location would be, so we are looking at the New York, New Jersey area to start with.
Okay, thank you. So really, we're kind of coming to the end of our time. It's the question that I'd like to leave you with, or ask your response to rather, is there anything in terms of your vision, your goals, that you'd want to share with the audience today that might convince them that you guys are the right partners for their future?
So we definitely aspire to bring the banking, so we want to take banking completely digital. That's what we have been doing for last 5 to 6 years, or let's say 6 to 7 years. We have many marquee, so many customers in India, big ones, have trusted us or our platform for that. So first digital adoption at a mass scale for savings account opening happened on Vana. First completely end-to-end digital lending, where no paper is touched and the whole lending process gets completed within minutes, including the disbursement. That happened in Vana. We also have a bank which took the platform and removed the branches completely. So you can say that there's no physical need for a person to go in, and everything happens through video banking, etc. So there are marquee implementations which have helped create faith, and the platform has been able to support that. Again, complete digital adoption in banking and finding scenarios where we keep on cutting down the costs and bring down the time to market for majority of banking institutions and insurance companies is what we will aspire for, and will aspire for a extremely large coverage in terms of market share and wallet share for that.
Thank you, Yogesh. It's been really interesting talking to you and hearing about Decimal and its story. We've been tracking you as a hot vendor for a little while now. Been really interested to see as the story develops over the next few years. The impact you're making in North America in particular will be something that I know our audience will be very excited to hear more about. So I'm looking forward to continuing our conversations. But for the meantime, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, David.